On the night of May 14th, 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson was driving home to Marshall, Minnesota, celebrating the end of his spring semester at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. It was a familiar drive, or so he thought, until his Chevy Lumina slid off the road and became high-centered in a ditch. Unable to nudge the car back onto the gravel, Brandon did what any teenager would do. He called his parents. At 1:15 a.m., Brian and Annette Swanson climbed into their vehicle to go retrieve their son. Brandon stayed on the line with them, guiding them toward his location. He told them he was near the town of Lind, and that while he couldn't see them yet, he was walking toward the bright lights of what he assumed was the town. For 47 minutes, the family stayed on the phone. Brian and Annette drove up and down the back roads of Lynn, flashing their headlights and honking their horn. "Do you see us now?" Brian would ask. "Nothing," Brandon replied. The confusion was growing. Brandon decided to cut across the fields, heading toward the glow on the horizon. He described crossing a fence and hearing the sound of running water from a nearby creek. As the clock neared 2 a.m., the conversation was mundane, almost calm. Then, Brandon suddenly interrupted himself. The line went silent. His parents screamed his name into the receiver, but there was no reply. They called back over and over, hundreds of times. But every call went straight to voicemail. Brandon Swanson had vanished into the Minnesota night. The search began at dawn, but it immediately hit a baffling roadblock. Police tracked Brandon's cell phone pings and found his car not near Lind, but 25 miles away near the town of Taunton. Brandon had been completely disoriented. He was miles from where he thought he was, walking in the opposite direction of safety. Search teams, including bloodhounds and hundreds of volunteers, descended on the area. The dogs picked up a scent that led from the car toward the Yellow Medicine River. The trail followed the water for several miles before abruptly stopping at the edge of the current. The theory seemed simple. Brandon had tripped in the dark, fallen into the river, and drowned. However, the Yellow Medicine River was only knee-deep in most places that night. Extensive searches with divers, boats, and sonar turned up nothing. No clothing, no cell phone, and no body. Years have passed, and the fields Brandon walked through have been harvested and replanted dozens of times. To this day, not a single piece of evidence has been found. In the wake of the tragedy, his parents pushed